hear me clearly. Can you hear me now?
Yes, but from very far. Yes, but please proceed, Mr. Wachira.
Yeah, so sorry about that, technical problems. But first, I'd like to thank the Editors Guild for organizing this conference. I think it's a very good and timely initiative. And I hope that these discussions about our sustainability will now become a regular feature of the industry moving forward. I'm particularly happy to make acquaintance with you again, Professor Nyabuga. I think we shared a newsroom 15 or so years ago. So it's very nice to make contact again, and Marceline as well. So allow me to give you a little background from my perspective. This particular initiative has come about as a result of the impact of the pandemic on our industry. And I must say that the summary of the state of the media has been captured very well by all the speakers so far. Very comprehensive perspectives. So I don't need to repeat those details, other than to say that the financial impact has been devastating to the extent that hundreds of jobs have been affected. However, it's important, as has been pointed out here by several of you, to point out that the financial situation of the Kenyan media was already very, very shaky before the pandemic. First, there's a well-known reality that with the dawn of the digital age, traditional media globally was slowly losing revenue to online platforms. This has been stated very clearly here today. And over and above that, there was a general economic slowdown for much of last year. And this resulted in a decrease of advertising revenues. So 2019 was not a good year for us. And if you can recall, it was at the end of November last year that the Standard Group issued a profit warning. And when one media house raises the red flag, you can be sure it's an industry-wide problem. So this year, 2020, started at a very slow pace. And the revenues in January and February were lower than at the same time last year. So we were already bracing ourselves for a very tough 2020. And then COVID hit and dealt us a very heavy blow. In fact, one can say that COVID hit us when we were already down, because advertising revenues, which were already depressed, literally collapsed. And newspaper sales were devastated. So as a means of survival, we were left with no choice but to carry out the very painful, massive pay cuts and layoffs across the industry. Several hundred employees were laid off, and many more suffered pay cuts. And that is why we are having this conference to discuss media sustainability and during and post-COVID. And I'd like to make a few observations. First, we need to recognize and remind ourselves that this is a global problem. The pandemic has forced media houses all over the world to engage in layoffs and pay cuts. And quite a few newspapers in the West actually suspended their print operations. The New York Times estimated that up to 36,000 employees of media companies in the US were either laid off or suffered pay cuts. In fact, they went on to describe it as the most significant exodus, forced exodus of media employment in recent history. So we're not in this alone, and as we deliberate about our future, I would urge that we observe what is happening elsewhere and see what lessons we can learn from the rest of the world. The second point I'd like to raise is that this forum has a very heavy emphasis on the plight of journalists. And this is understandable because this forum is driven by journalists. And I am one of them. And the well-being of journalists and the protection of media freedoms are paramount to the survival of media. But may I suggest that we need to look beyond journalists and think about the survival of the industry as a whole. Because our very survival is in question. Because we're dealing with two big challenges, that is the pandemic and the threat of traditional media is facing from digital media. We as management have tried to do whatever we can to ease the impact of the pandemic. Apart from the measures we've taken internally, we've also reached out to government. Someone mentioned tax breaks earlier on, we've sought those. We've actually also written to the CA requesting for the suspension of license fees. And of course, we've approached the government and said if the government can come up with a rescue package for tourism, surely why not media, considering the crucial role we also play in this economy. But moving forward, we all know that the internet and social media in particular are full of alternative sources of content. And has been said here by several panelists, we are no longer the gatekeepers of news and entertainment. We all know that as more and more people are consuming their news and entertainment online, and with the cost of data dropping slowly, and the cost of smartphones also dropping, these numbers are starting to grow. This is a wave that can't be stopped. And even though we, the traditional media outlets, are still the biggest players in online news, we haven't been able to monetize this online presence. So the question we should be asking ourselves, and I'm only repeating and emphasizing what others have said, is how are we going to survive in this new environment? What do we need to do to adapt to these realities? How can we reverse the loss of revenue? Which innovations can we come up with to unlock new revenue streams in the digital space? And as has been raised severally, what about our business models? Are they sustainable? Do we have the right structures to thrive in a changing world? And what is the role of technology in our march towards the future? We also saw that as a result of the COVID-19 lockdown, media houses adapted to technology, and news anchors and reporters were delivering bulletins from their homes. This was a major shift. And what implications does it have for news delivery moving forward? And I think several questions have been asked about how our journalists are going to evolve and our newsrooms into the digital age, and how we will maintain our relevance. So these are the tough questions that all media houses are asking themselves. And I'm hoping that this forum will contribute to these discussions. And the good thing about this forum is that it is seeking a collective thought process. And I hope we will come up with some, if not all, the answers to these questions. I'm very hopeful myself and confident that we will overcome these challenges. And I'd like to emphasize on behalf of the MOA and confirm that we support this initiative. We will participate in this initiative forward to the recommendations. So that's it